I don't normally do videos about marriage, but today I'm doing this one because I just got out of a conversation with one of our craftsman clients. I want to share with you part of that conversation. This particular craftsman client has built an extremely successful business, done hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, I'm not sure, in the past, but he's pivoting to a different industry. And this pivot has been one of the hardest things he ever went through. And one of the reasons it's difficult is because he wants his wife's support. And it's hard for her to support him and to believe that what he's doing is making the right decision. I went through something like this when I first became an entrepreneur. I'll never forget, I was working full-time for Apple. I was running a vape business online that was really struggling. And I decided one day I need to also drive for Lyft and Uber. And my wife said, I do not agree with it. You're not doing that. And I said, I wasn't asking for your permission. I was asking for your feedback. And in that moment, I knew I was supposed to do this. And I had to suffer a temporary instability in my marriage because I knew what I was supposed to do as the man. Now, what I'm about to say may trigger some of you. You unsubscribe, totally fine if it does, but I'm going to speak genuinely because I do believe in the Bible and its relevance to today. If you're a man, you are the head of the home. Whether you believe it or not, you still are. Whether you're a Christian or not, you still are. You were designed as head of the home. Let me first explain what that does not mean. That does not mean you go around bossing around your wife and kids like some arrogant little pompous ass. What it does mean is you are to be a servant leader, a protector, a provider, that you are primarily responsible for the provision and protection of your family because you are a man. You are about 40% stronger than your wife based on average statistics. That is why someone breaks into the house, you go and you protect your wife and let her get behind you. And that is why when a difficult decision has to be made and you listen to your wife, and oftentimes her advice is better than yours and you're going to go with her advice. But there will be moments where you disagree and you know in your heart the decision you're making is right and she won't agree. And you're still going to do what you know you're supposed to do, even though it goes against her advice. The idea that everything is a negotiation in marriage is simply not true. There are times where no matter how hard you guys try to make it work, you don't agree. And therefore, it is one of those sex's decisions, one of the gender's responsibility to make the final decision because two captains will sink a ship. And so in that moment when I decided I'm still going to drive for Lyft and Uber at this time, and I ended up doing it and it paid off her car and things worked out great, my wife actually respected me more in the end, not less. But a lot of men are afraid to do this because they believe in this quote, happy wife, happy life. And I hate the quote because it implies the marriage revolves around the woman, and it doesn't. It's supposed to revolve around Jesus Christ if you claim to be a Christian. And the husband and the wife worship him. He is the top of the triangle, and the closer they draw to him, the closer they draw to each other. Back to this client with Craftsman. So he's going through a really difficult time. And he decided to make a pivot, and his wife decided, well, I just don't really believe in it. And so she stayed on the sidelines for a while. But he still decided to move forward because he knew this was the right thing. And months later, she all of a sudden is on board. Bit by bit, she began to believe in what he was doing. As he led, she began to follow. And she saw, okay, I see what he's doing. I see the value. And now she does support him in that. But then this next situation came up where he found himself around other people, or his wife around other people who are extremely wealthy. I mean, extremely wealthy with these fancy yachts and these amazing houses and super fast cars. And he goes, Seth, I feel so low and discouraged. And he says, I really need a breakthrough. I need something good to happen. And I said, hold on there, brother. Let me share something with you. You are prejudging the situation. What if the situation is actually good? Keep in mind, any of these people who have put their hope in their riches, what happens to them when they die? They go naked back to the grave and an eternity separated from God. What happens when you die? You inherit everything. You get to walk in the presence of Yeshua of Nazareth. Perhaps God is showing you how much he loves you, and he's spending time refining you on the inside, preparing you so that when you do make a lot of money and you do have a lot of material success, your heart is humble and wise to handle it well. When I was in the hospital a few days ago with an enlarged spleen, a laceration, and bleeding, with an extremely intense fever and the worst headache I've ever had in my life, even morphine wouldn't take it away. In that moment, I had to make a decision. Will I choose to believe that God is against me? Will I choose to believe that life is just really bad right now? Or will I choose to believe, even though this sucks, even though it hurts, I'm not going to be fake, it really, really hurt a lot. God knows what he's doing. He loves me and he's refining me on the inside. But that pain is doubled, is tripled if your loved one is not there to support you. Again, listen to your wife's advice. Ask her what she thinks. Learn from her. She is your helper. She is your helpmate. She will make you stronger and go so much further than you ever could by yourself, and you will help her become so much better than she could ever be by herself. That's the beauty of marriage. Opposites attract, and they also make you stronger. But the reality is sometimes those opposites also go and they make you drive each other crazy. And if you're having that struggle and if you fight, that guarantees one proof: your marriage is real. I'll never forget this guy who I was on his podcast once, and he said, Seth, after 30 years of marriage, one day my wife just got up and left me and she went with another man. And they had teenager kids. It was absolutely heartrending. And then what he said next, I'll never forget. He said, Seth, we never fought. Our marriage was fake. We never worked through conflict. The depth was like a piece of paper. And all it took was one bad wind, and it tears, and it's over. Loving your wife and pleasing your wife are not the same thing. If it is your responsibility to make sure your wife is happy all the time, then you're trying to take a place that only God can fulfill. And that is an absolutely unrealistic burden. And it goes the other way as well. If she's trying to be God to you, she can't handle it. You are called to love and serve and lead your wife. And when it comes to a big decision and you guys can't agree on it, it is your responsibility to make that decision. Do not be a coward and just go with what she wants to avoid conflict. That is not manhood. That is cowardice. And do not be a bully and just go your way and ignore what she says and treat her as if she's someone inferior. She is not. Being the head of the home does not make you more important or more valuable at all. People confuse this all the time. They think, oh, that's the boss. He's a more important person. In God's eyes? Really? In light of his soul? Never. The value is the same. But just like in any business, just like in any government, just like in any family, there are structures, and those structures are there for a reason. In fact, they're modeled for us. If you struggle to love your wife, look at Jesus. He laid down his life for the church. That literally is the ultimate love. If there was a semi-truck coming and there's only chance for one of you to get away, you push your wife out of the way and you die for her. That's the kind of love we are called to love our wives with. And that kind is actually easier than the day-by-day laying down of self and putting her first. But putting her first is not the same thing as trying to please her. Love her, which means you may not always agree with her, but you're going to make the decision the best you can. And you might think, well, Seth, what if the decision's a wrong decision? That's okay too. You serve a gracious God. You just make the best that you can. But a decision is better than no decision, because if you're too afraid to commit, then it puts in an unrealistic burden on the wife she was never supposed to carry, and it's going to mess with your marriage deeply. So make the decision, and God will guide you. Proverbs 16:9. The man plans his way, but God guides his steps. As you go, God will guide you. It's really hard to steer a car that's not moving. Make the decision, get moving, build your business, grow in your marriage, and be okay with changes along the way as God guides you and as he refines you. If he truly is the loving father that he has proven himself to be so many times in my life, then he's not going to let you down. And allowing you to suffer and allowing you to not feel supported is not letting you down. It is growing you as a man. It is teaching you to put your real trust in him, especially when things suck. One more thought. Just as Jesus personified a husband to love his wife by laying down his life for the church, he also personified and exemplified, is a better word, a wife following her husband's lead, as Jesus always submitted to the Father. So in Christ, you have this most amazing example for the woman and the man, these opposites that are drawn together, and it brings glory to God and it fills your heart with joy. And that, my friends, is life. I will promise you this: you will suffer in this life. You will struggle. You will feel your balls kicked so many times. But God will continue to grow you because he loves you. And you're going to look back someday and go, wow, okay, it was worth it. I believe in you. You're doing something. You're doing something. And don't get discouraged. If only all you believe is just one little hundredth of what I've shared today, Jesus said, your faith could be as small as a little mustard seed and move a mountain to the ocean. God is so gracious. He doesn't require this massive amount of impressive faith. Even just a little bit of faith will take you a long way. Be a man, make a decision, serve, lead. Do not try to please, but love.